So you can share your screen.
Okay. Once again, good afternoon to all the participants. Sorry for this technical glitch. Let me straight away go to my presentation. This is on enhancing competitiveness of MSMEs through adoption of green practices. So at the outset, I'd like to thank TAGMA for giving us this opportunity. I represent Confederation of Indian Industry, Green Business Center, which is based in Hyderabad. So we uh, work with the industry in promoting green and sustainability, focusing on energy efficiency issues, green buildings and green companies, and the promotion of renewable energy and climate change mitigation initiatives. So here, the next 20-25 minutes, I would like to share what are the green practices which is being adopted by MSME industry, specifically engineering and tooling sector, how MSME can practice the green practices and then improve their competitiveness. And today, climate and environment has become important topic, and many of the businesses have started looking environment as part of their business strategy. We all know the issues each and every day. We have been seeing in the news or television channels about the climate change impact. Even the recent cyclone, what is happening, flooding, everything is because of climate change. So from that point of view, I think all of us are looking towards the environment and sustainability in a big way. Let me start with go to next slide, Sabyasachi. Let me start with a broad aspect of the environmental impact, which is being measured as part of as an ecological footprint. It is basically how much of productive land we have with respect to our demand. So always we need, I mean, whatever resources we consume, everything is coming from the earth. Similarly, whatever the activity we are doing, it is there are always some waste which is being generated through solid waste or liquid or gaseous waste, which is again going to the earth and atmosphere. So from that point of view, the biocapacity of the earth is very important factor. So it is always measured in terms of ecological footprint, the productive land available in terms of hectares of land per person per year, and it varies with respect to different countries. Of course, this is a huge issue for most of the countries globally for everyone. Sabyasachi, next slide. So, comparing the available biocapacity and what is the actual footprint in 2010 itself, our footprint was much more than the biocapacity, almost 1.5 times of the Earth's capacity. But today in 2020, it is as high as 1.8 to 1.9 times. If we continue to have the similar scenario, so we'll be somewhere needing 3 years to meet our demand by 2050. But obviously, it is not possible. We don't have 3 years. We have only 1 year. So whatever the resources available in the earth is also finite. So how are you going to bring back the growth of the entire world within the capacity of 1 earth? I think that is where each and every activity is focusing on. So the sustainability of businesses, sustainability of a country and society. I mean, everybody is finally looking how are you going to work within the limit of Earth's capacity. Next slide. So the need of the hour from the business point of view or from the industry point of view is how are you going to address these environmental sustainability initiatives? And the best possibility is adopting green manufacturing strategies. What is green manufacturing strategies? Nothing but improving the overall efficiency of the plant and reducing the resource intensity. Uh, Resource intensity in the sense whatever the production of the tools. So per output of product, how are you going to reduce our consumption of energy, reduce water consumption, improve the yield and reduce the material consumption, reducing the consumables, reduce the generation of waste. So everything finally measured in terms of resource intensity. So how are you going to bring down the resource intensity for the same output and improve the efficiency? And this actually gives a lot of opportunity in terms of improved competitiveness and ultimately improved bottom line, because whatever the resource efficiency projects we have been implementing, ultimately it is going to give benefit in terms of cost. So definitely pursuing green is a mega opportunity. Next slide. So based on our experience in working with different industries, So generally, the focus of green strategy is revolving around the resources and other environmental aspects. Here, I'm mostly talking about the resources where energy, water, waste reduction, material conservation, and recycling. How are you going to reduce the packaging consumption? Then overall, how to optimize or reduce the consumables consumption, even the logistics aspects. How are you going to improve the efficiency and ultimately reduce the emissions? So this is what most of the companies are adopting as a green strategy, and definitely this green strategy is going to give a lot of benefit in terms of meeting the minimum environmental norms. And many times, a company which is adopting good green strategy, they are much beyond the environmental norms. And similarly, they are looking some of the international regulations and guidelines, so they can be comparable, or their competitiveness can be much better or as good as some of the best in the world. And another important advantage of implementing green strategies and being a green company is becoming a preferred supplier status. So you can, I mean, always in the supply chain, you are part of a supply chain where you are supplying your component to somebody else. It can be other OEM or it can be an end consumer. Being a green manufacturer, you will become your preferred supplier. And of course, ultimately, it is improving the image of the company, and that gives a lot of benefit in terms of stakeholders' engagement. Next slide. When we see the implementation of green strategies in different companies, we have been seeing that the actual implementation happening at all levels. The successful green companies, we have seen that the top management is highly committed to implement green strategies. And there are several examples where the Indian corporate they have taken green strategy as part of the overall business strategy, and they have a lot of long-term long-term targets, like becoming a carbon neutral or water positive or a zero waste company, or increasing the renewable energy share. So I think a lot of long-term strategies are being adopted by the top management. So for a successful green company, the first and foremost requirement is the commitment from the top. Like any other initiatives, I think here also it is more, it's highly applicable. Then middle level is again playing a key role in taking the responsibility of the top management and helping to and facilitating to implement the strategies. And obviously, the operation level is key in terms of understanding and implementing at the shop floor. And there are a lot of awareness and training programs are required in terms of engaging the operating level team. So successful companies have been adopting all three strategies with the involvement of all three levels of management. Next slide. So having worked with the industry for a longer time, we have started an activity called the Green Company or Green Manufacturing Initiative. And as part of it, if you find what are the key characteristics of a green manufacturing or a green company, these are the major attributes for green manufacturing. The first and foremost is the energy efficient processes. So energy consumption is still one of the major environmental impact for any manufacturing industry. So how a plant or a facility can become most efficient plant in terms of energy efficiency, that's one of the key characteristics. Similarly, the other resources, the ultimate objective should be to become a water positive company. So when you become water positive, obviously, I mean, many of the water conservation initiatives are implemented. Then the rainwater harvesting within the fence, beyond the fence, ultimately they become water positive. And also achieving towards carbon neutrality. The size of the unit is less. So many of the manufacturing facilities already started looking carbon neutrality by having more and more renewable energy resources and ultimately reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. The other key aspects are waste minimization and ultimately becoming a zero waste landfill company, and similarly improving the yield of the product and as much as possible use less raw material and consumables, packing materials. All those things are one of the best in the sector. So that's the focus, and I mean the companies are trying to achieve those targets in the way to become a green company. And apart from that, companies are following green supply chain. it is not only necessary that their operation is green, because there are hundreds of suppliers and vendors as part of the supply chain. So how OEM company can influence the SME suppliers and vendors and influencing them to implement green strategies. So that's part of the green supply chain. So we have a lot of examples where many of the companies are really working on improving the greenness of their supply chain. And similarly, the other few aspects on the environmental terms is the toxicity. So companies are looking how to avoid or reduce the toxicity aspect of the product or processes. And the final one is the product stewardship, where we are looking the improvement in the product design. For example, considering the design for environment principles, how can we increase the longevity of the product? So the product life cycle is suppose 5,000 hours or 10,000 hours. How can we increase to 15,000 hours or 20,000 hours? So doubling the life obviously will reduce the resources drastically. And similarly, how to manage the end of life of the product. So at the end of life, so how to reuse and recycle or remanufacturing, those aspects are also included as part of the product stewardship. So these are some of the key aspects of green manufacturing or our green company. So considering this, next slide, Sabyasachi. CA developed a voluntary rating called Green Core rating. So this we have been promoting for the last 8 to 9 years. And today we have more than 650 companies working on this rating program. And these are the 10 parameters used to assess how green the company is. So you will find all major resources which I mentioned in the previous slide. It's a well-structured framework with clear guidelines, with a lot of transparency, where by seeing the checklist, so you yourself can do the self-assessment and find out where you are and where to improve. So this we have been promoting very successfully. Based on the rating, there are 5 levels of rating from certified level: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. So we are trying to help companies to perform beyond regulation and also try to achieve world-class excellence in green. Yeah, next slide. So the Greenko benefits from the 650 companies, out of which 330 are rated. So the feedback from these 300 companies are like the cumulative savings achieved by these companies is more than 2,400 crores annual recurring cost saving, because of several resource benefits like electrical energy, thermal energy, water conservation, material conservation, and then moving towards renewable energy and reducing the overall cost of electricity. So everything put together, this is the saving achieved by the companies. And the payback period, if you see, it is around 20 months. So many projects are less than 1 year payback with attractive investment. Next slide. So now, based on our experience in having worked with so many green companies, so I just wanted to share what are the excellence, how to achieve excellence through going green and also improving the competitiveness. Next slide. So first, let me start with the energy efficiency related activities. Next. So I think energy is, as I said, one of the major resources used in any manufacturing setup. I think first and foremost requirement is the measuring and monitoring. Obviously, I mean, large companies, it's all done for so many years, but in a smaller unit, it may not be so effective. But today, having the IoT and cloud-based energy monitoring and metering systems, so today it becomes more cheaper. And most of the SMEs we have seen, I mean, whatever the slides I'm presenting, mostly it is from the SME sector. So this is one of the small company called K-Plus Industries. They have gone for, even though the setup is so small, they've gone for online energy metering for each and every equipment, and then almost 100% of the equipment energy consumption is captured using the latest the online energy monitoring systems. Next slide. So this is clearly giving the value in terms of the actual consumptions, where we use extra energy, and what is actual idle operations. So ultimately, by just having this kind of monitoring system, we can effectively utilize this, and then minimum 4 to 5% of energy saving is possible. So what I'm trying to say is, for larger companies, these kind of systems are very common for so many years, but today even a small setup can have this kind of online metering and monitoring system, by which they can save almost 4 to 5% energy savings within their operations. So I think that's the first and foremost thing any company should look for, because metering and monitoring is effective means we'll be able to achieve good benefit in future and sustain that. Next slide. And another important aspect is how are you going to involve people? I think people's involvement is much more important for a sustained green initiative within the company. So this is the example from TVS Group, Brakes India Foundry Division, and later this has been implemented by several SME sector also. This is for the melting department, where melting furnace, a lot of manual intervention in terms of effective operation of the furnaces, and ultimately the consumption of energy in any melting operation is very high. So here what they have done, they have identified the key performance parameter of this equipment, and for each parameter, who is responsible with his photograph and details, and then what should be the target each shift they should achieve, and what is the actual number. So this number is updated for every shift, and obviously this helps the people to be more productive and more alert and more efficient in their own operations. Ultimately, I mean, it gives a lot of benefits. I mean, this is highly applicable wherever a lot of manual interventions are involved. So after seeing these kind of systems for melting furnaces, now we have seen people have implemented in other areas also. It can be any utility equipment like compressed air system, or injection molding machines, or even die casting machines. So all these kind of systems are, I mean, first is monitoring the energy. Second, going to the level where the performance of energy consumption is linked with the actual people who are operating it. So by the way, it become more and more efficient. Even the supervisor or the operator's KPI is mainly based on this performance. So their annual remuneration is based on this data. So that is how some of the companies have already started involving people, and ultimately it helps to reduce the resources. Next. There are several other opportunities. I think some of you must be already using it. LED light has become most common. Even at the household level, we don't use other than LED lights. So similarly in the factory, I think 100% of the lights can be LED. And even daytime, now people started using the light pipes. So it is the natural light is being received by a dome which is having a very high reflective pipes, and then it is transmitting into the room. It can be a concrete building where the light pipe can transmit the natural light, and then it is useful. And there are several controllers are available, so automatic sensors, movement sensors. So it brings a lot of efficiency in terms of overall lighting. Similarly, with respect to motors, I think the motor technology is also improving year on year. And earlier we used to have IE1 and IE2 category motors. Today IE3 and IE4 categories are available. So higher the number, the higher the efficiency. So today IE4 category available up to 22 kilowatt. So I think most of the machine tool applications are all smaller motors. So by design, I think these kind of a high efficiency motors can be preferred. So that saves energy from day one. Another major utility in any tool or engineering industry is air compressors. We use a good amount of energy for air compressors. So here, a lot of improvements happened in the last several years, and there are a lot of opportunity to operate at the right pressure and reduce the energy consumption, going for screw compressors, the VFD. And then there's systems implemented by the plant level, like a weekly monitoring of leakages, capacity test every quarter. I think these are all the systems being followed by most of the green companies, and they're able to operate with efficient operation. Ultimately, it saves money for the company. Similarly, VFD for pumps and blowers, and star-rated appliances like your air conditioners are also highly efficient and gives a lot of energy savings. Next. Next, Abhisaj. Yeah. So even it's one of
Already
the tool
I
and die
changed the
industry
slide,
where we have
Mithun.
seen. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. It's actually even they go into finer aspects of energy efficiency. These are the examples from tool and die industry where they have a die casting machine, so aluminum molten metal is poured. Always there should be some excess molten liquid than the actual requirement because that's the process requirement. So always the excess is poured into some other slots where it is again remelted after some time. So before a scenario, it was a smaller slots like this. Later, they found that by increasing the bulk density of this metal, so the remelting energy can be optimized. So then they've changed the process from these kind of slots to smaller ingots, and then by the way they were able to save or reduce the consumption for melting. So what I'm trying to say is even a small shop floor measures are identified by the operators or the supervisor level, and that is again giving a lot of benefit in terms of energy conservation. Next. Yeah. Now, net zero industries, net zero building, net zero facility, these are all some of the buzzwords of sustainability. And so people are talking about zero energy. That means whatever energy required for my plant or my building or my facility, I'll try to generate as much as possible my own renewable energy like solar, and whatever the offset can be again through the wheeling of power from outside. So ultimately, zero energy from conventional source of power or from the grid. So that is the target. And similarly, zero emissions in terms of GHG, zero waste to landfill, and zero water. That means whatever water I am consuming, I'm able to recharge and recover in annual basis. So ultimately, I'm water neutral company. So I think zero is the right number for sustainability. Many people have started looking in this direction. Next slide. So this is an example from our own building in Hyderabad, this Green Business Center of CII. And we used to have about 22 kilowatt panel, but recently we converted into 130 kilowatt with a bifacial solar. So by doing this, we were able to generate at least 25 to 30% more energy on an annual basis compared to our consumption. So by the way, we have become net zero. But only one important requirement for this is you should have a net metering system. So because whenever you generate more electricity, so you are exporting to the grid, but during night time or whenever the generation is less compared to consumption, so you may consume still from electricity board, but ultimately on an annual basis, so our generation is more than the consumption. So that's the way we become net zero energy. We have already implemented, and we are able to meet that. And again, another important aspect is these panels are all bifacial panels. Both the sides of the panel, we have solar PV, and because of that, the top surface, when the sun rays are falling on the top surface, it generates. And again, because of the transparent characteristics, the sun rays goes into the rooftop and then reflects back. And the backside also solar PV panels are installed. It is a single panel with both the side PV. Because of that, at least a 5% increase in overall efficiency, as high as 21 to 22% we are able to get. Whereas conventionally it is about 14 to as high as 17%, but here it gives almost 21-22% of generation. In terms of cost, it is not very high. It's almost the same cost of a normal conventional single side solar photovoltaic. Right now it is being supplied by a company from Sweden, and they are also trying to have some dealers in India, and you'll find in future bifacial solar becoming more popular, especially for the rooftop application, wherever the reflection of light can be possible. So the bifacial solar can be used. Next set of best practices I just wanted to highlight from the water management point of view. Next. I think both for water and also waste, reduce, reuse, and recycle or recharge is applicable. So many of the green companies already implementing very effectively, reducing in terms of having more efficient fixtures the consumption of water is reduced. And again, reuse is basically either your STP or ETP. The entire water is recycled, and then again it is used back in the system. So by the way, our freshwater consumption is drastically reduced. Of course, recharging is very, very important. So as much as possible, the entire water, what is falling inside the plant, has to be recharged within the fence. And many companies, to achieve water neutrality or water positive status, they are also looking this kind of water sustainability initiatives beyond the fence as part of their CSR activities. They try to adopt villages, they try to adopt lakes, and then augment the capacity and ensure that the additional augmented capacity is much more than their consumption, so that they become water positive. And it gives a lot of good vibe with the society, because water is a huge issue in most of the cases. So in case of any problem in water, so the society will blame industry. So to have a good interaction, good relationship with the society, I think these kind of projects are highly helpful. Next slide. So there are several aspects with respect to water efficiency. Water efficient fixtures are available. You have nozzles which reduce the consumption of water, and then you have a special aerated type of nozzles. Then with respect to cisterns, the flushing, you have a dual flush, so the water consumption can be reduced to half. And even the latest cisterns are all having most efficient design. Because of that, the old cistern used to have some 10 to 12 liters of water for each flush, but today it is less than 6 liters and 3 liters. So that's how it's helping to reduce water drastically. The last picture here is the waterless urinals. Most of the green buildings today, you'll find waterless urinals being used. So again, without a drop of water, it helps to implement, and then there is no requirement of even fixing a water line. Next slide. This is actually part of our building. It's part of our garden. So these plants are all part of our landscape. But actually, these are all water treatment plant. This is called a phytoremediation. So this capacity is 5,000 liters per day. But of course, we don't generate that much. But still, the capacity is of course 5,000 liters. So it's basically the wastewater from the kitchen and the toilet and all the wastewater sewage comes, and then from the overflow from the septic tank is passing through these two pits which are with the plants. These are these are some special type of plants which is normally available in India, like Canna indica and these kind of plants, which is helping to take away the nutrients in the wastewater. And these plants survive based on the waste in the wastewater. And with the 24 hours of residence time, the wastewater is treated to the level which is prescribed, much lower than the prescribed limit of Pollution Control Board. Both COD and BOD is within the limit, and it is successfully running. So only thing is, of course, only the initial investment is for the construction. But if you see the overall payback, it's 3 to 5 years, because still the water cost in India is not so high. But once it is fitted, then I think the maintenance, it's maintenance free. Only thing is you need space. So if you have space in your factory, 5 KL, 10 KL, 50 KL, even 100 KL also possible using this phytoremediation principle. Next. Next slide. Yeah. These are some examples how the rainwater harvesting is being done. Even the small companies, you'll find these are all small SME units. So the rooftop, the paved and non-paved area, so all the water is collected and finally diverted into recharging well or recharging pits, or even some cases it's being collected in a small pond or a collection tank. It's again reused or recycled. So this should be already it is compulsory in some of the states, but each and every one of us should do it, so that we contribute in terms of recharging the ground with the rainwater. Next. A few slides on other resource efficiency. Resource means material and waste. Next. Many industry we have seen, even the SME industry, today waste is considered as a resource. And you'll find that if you go to any waste management conference, you will hear that nothing is waste. Only thing is material is in wrong place is called waste. So from that point of view, everything can be a resource if it is effectively properly channelized. So many companies now they changed even the name of the waste management. I mean waste yard. They don't call it as waste yard. They call it as our scrap yard. They call it as a waste management and control area. And even one of the companies we have seen that they've changed the name from waste yard to value add, because each and every material is having some value. And today people started giving importance. How they are giving importance to the shop floor, the same importance is given for the waste management yard also. When you do like that, the value of the waste is also going up. Imagine a scrap kept in open yard under the sun and the rain and become corroded, and after 6 months, 1 year, if you sell it, the value will be much lower compared to a system where a proper storage collection is there. I think that's the advantage of this. Many people have realized, and then it's being implemented in most of the sectors. Next. Another few aspects from the end of life management of products. Definitely, I think tooling industry has been doing a lot of work in reusing and recycling the tools. We have seen many times the tools for a particular application has been once at the end of the life is used for next lower size, and as much as possible it is recycled. And here again, example from Sandvik, multinational company. So they recycle all the carbide inserts and round tools from across the world. So their Pune plant is having a facility to recycle the carbide waste. So they have a system to collect the waste from all their customers throughout the world. Finally, it comes to Pune unit, and it is being recycled and again sent back to the cutting industry. So in the process, they're able to reduce 70% energy compared to a tool manufactured from the virgin material, and overall 40% reduction in carbon emission, considering all transportation and everything. So ultimately, it is benefiting. And also, it is a lot of resources are, the availability is also a big issue. So from that point of view, this kind of a reuse and recycle is becoming more popular. And I think each one of us in our own way should start looking the reuse and recycle of tools and the remanufacturing aspects, and it's being followed by many people. Next. Similarly, some of the technologies where some Greenco companies they've changed from cold extrusion process into powder metallurgy process. Of course, there'll be some initial investment, but the benefit is really good, and expansion.
Sorry to interfere. I think we have to quickly wrap up.
Yeah, last 2 slides. That's all.
Yeah.
So again, by cold extrusion to powder metallurgy, the raw material yield is almost doubled, and it gives a lot of benefit. So that's the benefit in terms of the material saving and overall energy saving in manufacturing. Next. Greener supply chain. Either you are SME part of a large vendor supply chain, or you are a OEM where there are a lot of SME vendors. I think both the way both of you can contribute to make a green supply chain by working with the critical suppliers, implementing green procurement policies, and having a green vendor development program. Ultimately, it is a win-win situation where both will have the benefit in terms of cost. Next. So these are some examples from Godrej and Boyce, including the tooling division, interior and appliances. All these business units within Godrej and Boyce, they started adopting the cluster approach where they work with their SME vendors, and then they have a long-term plan to improve their system through 5 years, my machine concept, and importantly, green aspects. So they are looking energy, water, waste, and toxicity aspects. And by the way, it's a win-win situation for both. There's a good relationship between the vendor and the OEM, and similarly, there's a cost benefit, and ultimately, it's contributing towards a more environment-friendly world. Next slide. I think almost 75% of Godrej suppliers, SME suppliers, are already green co-rated under SME rating. Next. This again, as a tool industry, Godrej and Boyce Tooling Division, Vikhroli, is the first green tool room in the country by adopting Greenco in 2016, and later 2018 they have achieved gold level rating. There are several initiatives with respect to resources and their top management commitment in terms of good and green target, then a good model for greening the supply chain. They have done LCA study for their press tools, and there are a lot of initiatives in terms of product take back, recycling, and reconditioning, and also focusing on end of life disposal and design for environment. So ultimately, this has become the first green tool in the country with a gold rating. So to sum up, definitely going green is not a choice. It has become a necessity today to be part of the business and being competitive. So Greenco can be an excellent tool, and we invite TAGMA members to adopt Greenco rating. So obviously, we look forward to closely work with TAGMA members. Similarly, we are doing with several garment, textile, even Indian Machine Tool Manufacturers Association. So we can sign an MOU and then start identifying certain pilot projects, and then in a cluster approach, we can jointly work in promoting green industries and green manufacturing. So thank you for your patient listening. For more information, you can contact me or my colleague Sabyasachi. The email ID and website details are provided. Thank you.